evening and welcome to Adrienne Speaks with Greg Casar and Michelle Vallejo, Executive Director at Brand New Congress. And I am so excited to be joined by my two champions who are seeking to represent Texas 35 and Texas. It is so good to see you, Greg.
It's so good to see you too. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and it's so good to see you.
Excited to be here. Thank you for everybody who's joining us for this important conversation. We're getting really excited as we're getting closer and closer to polls opening in just about 2 weeks.
Exactly. I have to tell you all, seeing the two of you gives this. We are home to one of the most restrictive states in the country. It's health, women's privacy, which we're ranking 48th in the 50 states, voting rights, and the list goes on and on of how the Republicans in Texas have really started putting restrictions on Texas. Gerrymandering, and we had new maps that were drawn that really made it allow Texans to win as Democrats. And as a former congressional here in Texas 14, and it was already a red district, and when they got through drawing 14, they made it even stronger. And so I applaud your courage for running up and being representative of what we need in Congress from Texas. So background and give us your why. You're running in Texas from experience. When you tell someone you're running in Texas for Congress, they look at you like, and we know we love our state and we love the people in this state. Let's start with you. What prompted you to run for office? What is your this?
Yeah, to me, Texas is our home. This is our state, and we're not giving up on it. I spent the last 8 years on our city council here in Austin. My congressional district stretches from East Austin down to downtown San Antonio, connecting so many working class communities, historically Black and brown neighborhoods, places that really have driven not just the progressive movement in Texas, but around the country. When you talk to me and Michelle, we're really just trying to bring Texas back to some of its actual real roots and making progress for our country, because this moment, the people that are the officials over Texas aren't actually reflective of the people here. Roe v. Wade was a critical court case, and it wasn't won in some coastal city or place that people think of as a quote unquote blue state. It was won here in Texas when a 20-something-year-old lawyer named Sarah Weddington sued Henry Wade, who was the district attorney of Dallas, and won abortion rights for the entire country. So if we won them here in Texas, it makes sense that in this moment of oppression and a total abortion ban where abortion services can be punished with up to life in prison, it's up to us in Texas to bring that back. And that's part of running for Congress. The Voting Rights Act was signed by Lyndon James Johnson, a Texan. The act that created Medicare was signed also by LBJ. But now we are the least insured state in the country. But it makes sense that if we want to win healthcare as a human right for all, it should be coming from places like Texas where folks don't have health insurance and need it. We hope that in elections, to make sure that not only I get sent to Congress, but that I'm joined by Michelle Vallejo, we want to organize and energize those voters that are excluded by voter suppression laws for them to be the margin of victory for progressive Democrats here in Texas. And so even though we're in this time of darkness and a lot of pain in our state, we want to turn that frustration and energy into something good and into being able to lead not just our state, but the whole country.
Absolutely. Out of pain comes great joy and great victory. And so what experience in November, the next few weeks, is victory in South Texas. What is your why? Why are you running for office?
So I am homegrown from here in the district down in Hidalgo County, right on the border of South Texas and Mexico. grew up at my family business, at our flea market. And that's how I have deep connections and deep roots with my community, working with very hardworking families who are doing everything they need in order to get their families in a better situation. And fundamentally, everyone in the district here is out for that. We care about our children, we care about our elderly, and we want a better life for everyone. And my run for Congress actually is deep rooted in community efforts and community organizing to begin with. Due to redistricting and these efforts, in order to disenfranchise voters even more in the state of Texas, our district got redistricted to where our current sitting congressman got drawn out. And that triggered a search for someone who would be viable, who would be strong, who would be brave and bold to champion progressive values and to champion progressive policy, and something that would serve us all here in South Texas. And we made it through a very tight 6-part primary and then a runoff and then a recount. So I'm really excited about being a first-time candidate, but also having made it this far, having been battle tested, and have made it through because of that support of my community and the energy that we have here in South Texas in order to reclaim our power and to make sure that our voices are heard and that we're treated with dignity, and that everyone in South Texas and along the frontera has what we need in order for our families to thrive and for everybody to live the best quality of life possible. Here in Texas, it's the reality that our families and women in particular are in danger because we do not have access to abortion care. And this is critical. We've already had experiences within our district and neighboring districts where women and families have to travel out of state, travel to Mexico, and put themselves in great danger in order to determine their own lives and their own future. And so this is on the chopping block, and the community and the members of South Texas understand that this is what we're voting for. We're voting for our fundamental rights. We are voting for our bodily autonomy. We are voting for our access and right to privacy, as well as what we need in order to get ahead and make sure that we live healthy lives and we have a healthy, strong community. And I think here in this moment in Texas 15, it's becoming more and more critical, and we're becoming more aware of how much political power we have in this moment. So Texas 15 is not only the most competitive congressional seat in the state of Texas throughout this general election, but nationally we are top 5, if not top 10 most competitive, and this is to hold the House majority. And so the voters of South Texas right now have the power to not just determine the political makeup and landscape of South Texas, but quite frankly, the nation. And so it's been so exciting because today is the registration deadline for people to register to vote here in Texas. And we've had so many people coming to our office, excited to make their voice count. And we're going to keep pushing here 100% until we cross that finish line and win this race.
And part of what Michelle is too humble to always mention is that she was part of an effort to try to find who should run in this now open seat. Mm-hmm. But little did she know that everybody in the community was writing her name down. And so she's running because she really is that candidate that the community is asking for. And so just so thrilled for us to be able to have such an amazing candidate in South Texas that we're all supporting.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. It really should be where the community wants you to represent them. And so when things started getting closer to election day, you know, things just kind of go kind of haywire always. You have supporting you. One conversation that we have had in my Texas is the lack of support from our national party to in communities. And we have had the discussions that we are community. The outreach starts for us a lot of times like in October. And it is almost here, and you wait to reach out to us in October. And it's something we've seen and we've witnessed. And so, Michelle, we know in your race that we were told a few days ago, we're pulling out of doing advertising. And since you are one of the most competitive districts in the country. And I got a letter. Well, I didn't get a letter, but an email yesterday. And he said that national Democrats have reached South Texas communities, and that we as Texas Democrats will not make. And one thing that you said that I really like hearing is, I will never give up on you. And do you want to talk about that of, I will never give up on you? I think that's something that is for your campaign, because people need to know that we won't give up on them.
Right. Absolutely. I love to remind people that it's our culture not to give up, and equally to fight back for what we believe is right and for what we rightfully deserve. And South Texas deserves the best. And I know that in this race, I'm the only one who's willing and ready to fight for our families, to give a voice to the people of South Texas, as opposed to my opponent, who's ready to hand over this seat to the pretty radical right Republican wing of things, who has not even shown up to a debate, a friendly candidate forum, to have conversations with our community members. And you're right, there have been a lot of ads against me, a lot of outside interest, money pouring into the district to try to trick our electorate and keep them uninformed about what's on the ballot this election cycle, and who's trying to win over their vote. And here in South Texas, and in particular at the Pulga, I learned to never give up, no matter what the circumstance is. And in this race itself, I have faced challenges where people have thought that I couldn't make it through because I was a first-time candidate, because I was coming from a grassroots effort from the community. And actually, that is the reason why I made it this far, because I come with that swell of community support, because it's coming from an effort from the ground up in order to create change for ourselves. And I just think that this moment where we have support galvanizing behind us is a defining one, when there is national support that we've heard is not going to be supporting our race. A lot of other people have come in to support us. We've seen an uptick in money coming our way, which I greatly appreciate, and will make the ask now. So if anyone wants to support Texas 15, donations is the best way to support us right now. So we could stay on TV, and we could have our organizers fueled and ready to do what we do to keep in touch with everyone who we've been building relationships throughout the campaign trail, and make sure they come out to vote and come out to the polls with us.
Right. Well, when we think something is so tragic, the real good comes out. Texan in us rises up, and it's like, you know what? You know who's going to win Texas? No, South Texas folk. And so we absolutely fight back. Greg, you have anything you want to add?
No, we aren't giving up on any part of our state. I have to repeat over and over and over again that Texas is not a red state. We're an under-organized state. We're a state that's been left behind and underinvested in. When I go and knock on doors, our biggest enemy oftentimes isn't even the folks battling against us from the right wing. It is people's lack of belief and loss of belief that this democracy will ever work for them. And I can't blame them. When the minimum wage in Texas can't pay the rent hardly anywhere in the entire state, we're still down at $7.25. When the power went out for millions and millions of Texans, and so many people died because our grid went completely down under this governor, we saw our top leaders like Ted Cruz get on a plane and go to the beach. And that is them trying to build cynicism that what we do doesn't matter. And we have to turn the tide on that. We have to show folks that if you participate, and if we participate collectively, we can do anything and we can do anything. And that's what we're starting to see happen in Texas. We have seen Starbucks organizing left and right. We have our first union hotel ever here in my home city. We just organized the first nurses union in a generation here in Texas at an enormous hospital. There's so much good happening here, and we hope that folks from across the country can believe in that too and stop just raising money from Texas, but actually putting money into Texas organizing. Because it wasn't that long ago that California's governor was Ronald Reagan, and it was considered a hardcore red state. It wasn't that long ago that people said Georgia could never be second as two Democratic states. And it won't be very long until Texas changes, and it hopefully will come sooner rather than later, and hopefully with national help. But if not, we will continue to do that, like you said, Texas folk getting it done.
Absolutely. A few years ago, I want to say back in 2013, when an organization called Battleground Texas, and Jeremy Byrd, who was the national field, President Obama, started this, and it was to treat Texas because it is known that when Texas changes, it is going to change the national. And Texas is a big old state. It's a big old state to organize. I have people, you say, well, why don't you just go visit Michelle? Okay, speaking from right now. What city are you in?
I'm in McAllen right now.
Okay, McAllen is about 6 hours from me, and no traffic. And I am like Houston, where it's always traffic. Just to go see Michelle would take me 12 hours round trip and to talk. And then, Greg, where are you right now? You're in Austin. Okay. And Austin is about 3-hour drive. And Texas, it is so different. We have 2 time zones in this state, and our area is different. But one thing that's our commonality is that we are in one another. We do believe in standing up for the working people, and we do values of family. And I do believe that continuing to organize, focus on the people that you two are so great at doing is going to be this often, because I live in a red district. And when you go to Congress and vote, you will be voting for me. I may not have a representative, but I'll have you. And your vote cast in Congress will be for everyone. And so it takes all of us to make sure that all of us you can have a real good electorate that's representing Texas in Congress. You mentioned something really good of going knocking on doors and what people are saying. And it's something you experience when you do go out and knock on doors. People are not what's going on in politics because they're trying to survive. And they want leadership in our state, in our nation, that seems as though it's just on them. So they really don't believe what we say. And change is really there. So what kind of news that you hear from constituents when you go knock on the doors, that that when you get to Congress, that's going to help them? That's for Greg.
Oh, sorry, you cut out when I couldn't hear whether you're asking for me or for Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we have to immediately get to people's pocketbook issues from the beginning. The Democratic Party doesn't just have a messaging problem. As you pointed out, Adrienne, we have to be able to show that folks can believe our message. Mm-hmm. And I think that immediately means that we've got to be raising the minimum wage. I think that immediately means we have to start bringing down the soaring cost of the rent. I think that means we've got to give people a union at work and things like paid family leave and sick leave, so that people can remember that our party should be the party of working people, not of corporate interests. And if we can get folks there to show that the Democrats are the people that are for the working man or woman, I think that opens up so many more possibilities then for us to go and finally then go and fix our Supreme Court or get rid of the Electoral College and fix up our democracy. But before we can fully get to that, I think people have to know that we're going to make sure we help with their daily survival. We know that there is the long-term survival that we have to be worried about. We have to address the climate crisis. And no matter where you are in the country, where what happens with Texas politics determines so much of what happens with the climate crisis, because we are the center of energy for this whole country, and we need to make it the center of renewable and clean energy. But before we can fully tackle that, we've got to be able to win big majorities where we are seen as the party of the working class. Otherwise, we will continue in these deadlocks where people feel tuned out or feel like there's not a difference between the parties. We have to be able to show that we're going to lower your cost of housing and increase your wages, and that we're on the side of your union and your family.
Absolutely. Michelle, what are some of the things that you're hearing when you go knock on concerns?
Yeah, so people are talking about the economic issues, the rising cost of living, the fact that even before the pandemic, people were having to work 2, 3, sometimes even 4 jobs to make ends meet. So life has been really hard, and it's only gotten harder in the past few years. So people understand that right now, the system that we have in place is not working for us. It doesn't benefit people. It ends up benefiting private corporations and people who don't live in our district. So we need to hold people accountable. We need to be pushing back on private interests. We need to be pushing back on big pharma. We need to be pushing back on these outside big interests that, quite frankly, don't make decisions that benefit the individual person. One thing that comes to mind immediately that I'm hearing at the doors, and something I know that in Congress, Greg and I could definitely work on making sure happens, it's codifying Roe. It's making sure that women have bodily autonomy, that families are able to determine however they see best fit for their family planning. We have our privacy secured, and doctors and nurses are not criminalized for providing life-saving care. And these are things that we could do immediately. And there's a lot of momentum to make these changes. And the majority of Texans and the majority of Americans agree that these protections should be in place so that women have the right to choose. And if we don't put a stop to this, we're going to see even more rollbacks of our fundamental rights that have been in place for decades.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about, Greg, you mentioned about labor, and and when I first started working, I joined the union, and union, it's, good jobs, good paying jobs, vacations, and healthcare. We hear a lot of pushback against unions, as though unions are detrimental here in Texas. And so that sounds like unions, if you are as a legislator, in Congress.
You broke up right there at the end. Were you asking how can we promote folks joining unions more?
No.
Sorry, you broke up.
Okay, when you go to the concern, you hear about in Texas, like, union busting. What is your going the unions when you go to Congress?
Sorry, you keep breaking up, Adrienne. Michelle, can you say that really? Were you able to hear?
I didn't.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go to something else.
No. If you just say it one more time. I mean, I think it's so important. You were saying folks keep pushing back against unions
labor.
In Texas.
On labor.
Yeah.
Union busting. How are you from Congress?
How can we stop union busting? Yeah, so important. So One of the first things we need to do is pass the PRO Act, the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, and different pieces of it. Because right now, you have these right to work for less laws that make it really hard for unions to organize in Texas. We need to ban those right to work for less laws. We also need to make it so that big companies can't threaten their workers in the middle of a union drive. We have to make it so that if you join a union and you're not able to come to an agreement on pay with your employer, that there's a mediated sort of settlement that makes it so that workers are able to get their raise even if a company is resisting their union. So there's so many pieces of law that can make it so that people fully have that right. And what's so important for people to know is that even though Texas is this corporate run state, that's not how most people in the state feel. The vast majority of people in Texas see unions as a favorable thing. It's just that most of them aren't really allowed to easily form one. The vast majority of Texans believe we need to tax big multinational corporations and provide benefits to working people. It's just the political Republican officials that won't allow that. Something like, I saw a poll the other day, over 75% of Texans wanting to see a raise in the minimum wage. So most people here do support labor and unions and supporting working people over big corporations. It's just our political leaders who need that political will. And that's what we're trying to build from the ground up.
Oh, great. I love hearing that. And I know unions love hearing that as well. Champions in Congress to help them.
I'm so sorry that it took me a while to get to the answer with you, but it's such an important question. I've been a paid union member, and I still am. I've AFSCME 1624, and I came from labor organizing alongside immigrant construction workers before being on the city council. So it's something that we're seeing surge even in Texas.
That is great. Michelle, what would be your land legislation that you want to see passed with your name on it? And we know you alone, you have to have others. But what do you want to see that you want to be in Congress, that this is something that you championed?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a complicated situation down in South Texas, in particular, because we are the border region. So I want to push legislation and good working immigration policy, because right now, quite frankly, it's not working. No party has a plan, no party has a solution, but not just a solution. I want to fight for opportunity. I firmly believe that my home and the Frontera region is one of the richest economic corridors of the world. We just need to make the right investments in order for the people of this part of our country to benefit as well. And when it comes to immigration and the challenges we face when people are seeking asylum with no solution, no pathway, no answer, and them ending up just in the hands of those that will take advantage of them the most, we need a process for asylum that works. We don't need band-aid approach policy. We don't need a hyper-politicized game that unfortunately Republican leaders right now in office are just choosing to be inhumane and trying to get more press, or getting their antics and their reactions picked up by Fox Media. So I think it's important we have a pathway to a process for asylum. So that means that we need our courts, our immigration courts, to be well funded and resourced. We need more immigration judges, and we need those investments in place so that our communities are not overburdened with that challenge. We also need an investment in a pathway to citizenship. And what we just saw not too many days ago is that DACA students were actually targeted by an effort for their protection and for their pathway of citizenship to be further challenged and not in place. And these are people who grew up in this country, know the United States as the only place that they call home. And so it's important and vital that we get that policy passed, and we allow people to be full citizens in our country, for them to live their best quality life and give back just the same way that we are so driven to do so. And also, I think it's important that we have investments in our ports of entry for public and private use. So we have a humane immigration process in place. We have pathways to citizenship for people who are here to live the best life possible, work hard, and provide for their families and get ahead. And so that there's an economic opportunity for all of us that we could all benefit from, so that we could live better, healthier lives.
I know everyone who is listening to the two of you have the same. You hear the passion for the people. You hear the love for community and for progressive change in our country that's going to benefit. It is an honor to have stolen 30 minutes of our and Michelle Vallejo to speak with you this afternoon. Do you wisdom of knowledge that you want to share with us or share with our audience tonight?
I just want to. Oh, we both jumped in at the same time.
So
you go ahead, Michelle. Oh, I knew we were going to do that. I will close just by talking about how important it is that we send Michelle to Congress. She's in the most competitive seat in the state, and it could determine the future of the U.S. House. And when we are hearing about other people pulling out, that's exactly when it is that we need to fill in. And so Michelle is in a really, really tight race. I think Nate Silver put it at 51% chance that she wins, 49% chance that she doesn't. And we need to change that and push it so that we can have her as the next member of Congress, because none of us do it alone. We won't be able to pass the voting rights policy or the gun safety laws or be able to restore abortion rights in Texas and make sure they don't get banned anywhere else unless we have a Democratic majority that also has progressives and people that will actually fight for working people in that majority. And Michelle is just that. And so I want to kick it over to you, Michelle, while emphasizing just how important it is for folks to chip in and to her if you can.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. And my message really is that the power is in our hands. Power to the people. This is how we've gotten into the race to begin with. This is how we got this far. And I firmly believe that this is how we're going to win in November. We have a lot of engagement and support and energy. We have a lot of young organizers that have never felt invited, never felt engaged by the political system before. So there's a movement in Texas and in South Texas in particular that we're just very excited to invite more folks in to join us to make history here in South Texas. Something that's very interesting as well in this race is that there's never been a woman in the 120 years of this seat being in existence to represent South Texas. So we're going to have a big change when we finally cross that finish line, have a woman in Congress, have a Latina that is ready to fight for our families of South Texas and to join hopeful colleagues like Greg Casar to keep driving this change, to serve the people, and to reinvigorate energy and a belief and trust in our democratic process. One thing I also like to share is that our democracy is as strong as how we're willing to fight for it. So we're going to continue fighting, and we really invite everyone to come along for the ride with us as well.
Well, thank you all so much. Early voting October 24th, Election Day, Victory Day is on November. Wait until the polls close at 7 o'clock to where we can congratulate and Michelle Vallejo to be 2 new Texas representatives to Congress to speak with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing your vision, sharing your passion. Know that you're going to win. Thank you,
Brandon.
so much.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.